Welcome back to Weekly Wonder, our deep dive into industry secrets and the topics you want to know most about. A hotly debated and controversial topic of late is the discussion surrounding show jumpers going barefoot, meaning they never wear horseshoes. It's certainly a fascinating move, but the #1 ELO-rated horse in the world, King Edward, is barefoot. Rolex Grand Prix of Geneva winner United Touch went shoeless a few years back to help shorten his stride and help bring his hind end more underneath him. Most of Julian Bayard's horses have never worn shoes. Carl Cook's Caracol de la Roque is barefoot, and many others. It's a trend that took off a few years back and has been gaining traction across the sport. Is it a fad, or it will become the norm as popularity grows? To give you a little background, horseshoeing has been around since 400 BC, where ancient Romans used something called hippo sandals to protect their horses' feet, and ancient Asians were known to even use woven plants. So horseshoeing is nothing new, and farriers, blacksmiths who also shoe horses, to be clear, have been tending to horses' feet for centuries. Horseshoes are said to protect the horse's feet, increase speed, add durability on rough terrain, and provide therapeutic relief to medical issues. Nowadays, we see all different types of materials being used, from traditional steel to aluminum, plastic, rubber, glue-on shoes, clip-on shoes, hot shoeing and cold shoeing, and more. It is an art that has remained largely unchanged for hundreds of years, but recently we are starting to see a shift away from the traditional, and here to speak about its merits and potential pitfalls is world-class farrier Pascal Ebel and Pan American team gold medalist, American rider Carl Cook. Thanks, Pascal, for joining us. I'm very excited to have you here today. So first question up is, tell us some of the basics of horseshoeing and why it is still common practice in the sport today.
So there's mainly 3 reasons why we shoe these days. That's excessive wear, so protection of the foot, traction if you ride on grass, you want to put studs in, and correction if the horse is going bad in a certain way.
So why do you think that someone would choose to pull the shoes off?
So normally you try to trim every 4 weeks because you want the coffin bone as close to the ground as possible. Because the further the coffin bone is from the ground, the more reaction forces are getting on the tendons and the ligaments and the joints. So by adding a shoe, you actually add 4 weeks to the foot, because the shoe is 8 millimeters, and that's about what it grows every 4 weeks. So
Interesting.
That's the reason to pull the shoes. And then with the shoes, people are adding pads because they have to jump every week. So then we put pads. So then again, you add like 4 or 5 millimeters. So then you have 8 millimeters plus the pad. Then you're already on 12 millimeters. So you add length to the foot. So if you take everything away, your coffin bone is closer to the ground. So there's less stress on the foot.
Interesting. So what do you think some of the major risks are with pulling the shoes, and are those risks worth it?
What I see is that from every 10 horses that you pull the shoes off, that 2 are really happy and 8 go back on shoes.
I think anytime that a horse has to go back on grass, you see people who have barefoot horses still putting shoes on in order to be able to put studs in. So that is, I would imagine horses struggle with that.
Well, no, because these farriers know what they're doing. I mean, this is high-end sports, so everybody knows their horses. Then you can use like really Shetland pony nails. You put the shoes on for 1 or 2 days and you take them off again. And what you see now is a new technique with a certain shoe that you make a scan of the foot. Then 2 days later, they send you the shoes. You put the shoes on. They're from plastic, and they're really light. So the horse doesn't really has the idea that he has shoes on. Is the idea.
Okay. In general, like, do you think barefoot horses should just be au naturel, or do you think the shoes really do serve a purpose for the majority of horses?
Well, that last thing is the thing. It is a lot of work to have them without shoes. That's one thing. Is it better? Yes. Every book of horseshoeing starts with that a horseshoe is a necessary evil. If you don't need it for that protection, if you don't need it for the excessive wear, for the correction or traction, it's better to leave without shoes.
All right, last thing. Is this something because of all the maintenance on it, is this really something to keep the horses barefoot for your average horse person that they should consider it? Or, what does, should cost be a factor? Should, the maintenance on it be a factor? Or you think the average horse person could manage it if they had the time and the know-how?
So in the end, for me, for sure, there's horses that are better off without shoes. But then for the average horse owner, I think it's difficult unless you have great quality feet.
And now some thoughts from top show jumper Carl Cook. You mentioned it is complicated having a barefoot horse. Can you elaborate a little bit on that?
We have a circle around our barn that's a gravel over asphalt, and we put in rubber mats for her. She has travel boots when she goes in the trailer. She has boots that go over her feet when she goes to the ring and back from the ring. She gets shod or trimmed, major trimming every 2 weeks, but there's minor adjustments along the way. That's a logistical challenge. With her, I look at all of her feet every single day, and I almost think I go cross-eyed because I'm trying to look at the balance. I'm trying to look at, is the heel long enough, or the toe, or you're
an obsessive nature to it.
Yeah, because any detail that you miss has more consequences. Not every horse can be barefoot.
Okay.
I would love to have every horse barefoot, but it's impossible.
From a time standpoint, or just because they're not all candidates for it?
Not all candidates. You'll make more horses lame insisting on everyone being barefoot than you'll make them better.
The one thing that you always hear all the time is when you pull a horse's shoes, it shortens their stride and pulls scope out of them. Obviously, you got Caracol already without shoes, and I had a conversation with Richard Vogel, and he mentioned with United Touch, he pulled the shoes intentionally to shorten the stride because his horse's stride was too big. Do you think that is something that plays a role with pulling shoes and people should be wary of, does it shorten the stride? Does it take away scope?
I think the scope is not for every horse. I think the shortening of the stride is significantly more common.
Okay, interesting. Well, this was fascinating. You have anything else you want to add about the sort of shoe, no shoe debate?
You need everyone on your team to be aware of it, to prepare for it before you do it, and to prepare for the ramifications, to understand how to see as soon as possible if it's working or if it's not working. And I think people correlate. They say, look at these top horses and how many of them are now barefoot. And they say, oh, well, then if it's the same ratio for every horse, it'll help all of them. But the correlation is not causation. And it's a process. And it always will be. Even if it's successful and a good idea, it'll always be a process.
Well, such a fascinating topic, and now I feel like we've all received an education on the shoe, no shoe debate. Time will tell how this trend continues, but for now, would you remove your horse's shoes and try out the natural approach? Not sure I'd be brave enough to, but it's certainly something to entertain.